Did the CIA have a hand in the murder of John F. Kennedy, an American president? And here's the reply we received verbatim. Quote, "The answer is yes. I believe they were involved. It's a whole different country from what we thought it was. It's all fake." Americans have trusted their government less with every passing year since the killing of John F. Kennedy.
What's up, guys? It's your boy, Benny. So, have you ever read George Orwell's 1984? One of the hallmarks of a dystopia is doublethink, the capacity to hold two countervailing ideas in your head at the same time. Ideas that actually cancel each other out. 2 + 2 = 5, right? But if the state says it's so, then it is so. Doublethink is, of course, what happens when you have brain worms, when you have the woke mind virus. When you can say, free Palestine, Palestinian liberation, and you can also say, I'm for gay rights. They don't work together. They're not the same thing. Gaza is under Sharia law. Do you understand what happens to gay people under Sharia law? But yet they champion for it. It's crazy. It's wild. It's insane. It's insane. These people that say that they're for women's rights, and then they vote for Hillary Clinton, to put Bill Clinton back in the White House. Yes, perfect, please. Yeah, do it. So doublethink is effectively what happens when somebody who says they're for truth and goes about potentially telling you a truth, but then does the exact opposite in the rest of their lives. And here we have the case of Rob Reiner. Rob Reiner is a lunatic leftist, right? A lunatic, absolute broke brain, old, degenerate, heavy breathing hippie, trying to stay relevant. And he has a theory that JFK was shot by multiple shooters. Director Rob Reiner claims he's unearthed proof that JFK was killed by 4 shooters, not one, and says that the reasons for the first shot missed the president motorcade is key to the theory. So Rob Reiner is out doing this tour saying he knows who shot Kennedy. And he has a podcast. So he's trying to sell, he's trying to sell ads, right, against a podcast. But he says that the official investigation was wrong. But see, here's the thing, that Rob Reiner is a Marxist statist, and it was the state that lied about killing John F. Kennedy. Who actually did kill Kennedy? Was the CIA? Was the mob? Was the Cubans? With the help of the CIA? All of it was covered up. That's a fact. The thing that we know is that, of course, Lee Harvey Oswald, CIA agent himself, trained in Cuba, that Lee Harvey Oswald certainly did not fire the shots that killed JFK. It's physically, literally impossible. So, who did kill JFK? Rob Reiner claims that there were 4 shooters involved in the murder of John F. Kennedy and insists the reason the first bullet missed is key to the theory. Kennedy was shot in his motorcade in Dallas, Texas, on November 22nd, 1963. The anniversary of that, 6-year anniversary of that was last week. Official investigations concluded that the assassination attempt was by a lone gunman to just tie a little bow on it. Of course, Lee Harvey Oswald himself said, I'm a patsy, and this is all set up. And then Lee Harvey Oswald goes and gets himself shot just a few minutes later. Ooh, man, they cleaned that up nicely. So Reiner says there were more people involved, and he names them in his podcast who killed JFK. He questions the report that Oswald was solely responsible for the murder, and they believe that they have finally solved the puzzle. Here's the old, aging, degenerate, overweight, hippie Rob Reiner. Here's the problem I have with guys like Rob Reiner, though, is that, this guy himself is a psyop, right? He says that he spoke with the CIA representatives about this. So what is this? I mean, is this an operation? Rob Reiner is the kind of guy that tweets, this is a real tweet, if you vote for anyone but Joe Biden, you're voting to destroy American democracy. Hey, Bueller, McFly, do you know what democracy means? You disease. So yeah, Rob Reiner's a stupid guy. Is Rob Reiner getting rolled by the CIA in order to send people on a wild goose chase here? Listen, and you decide.
Into the story and say there's more here. That's always kind of interesting. You have this new storytelling podcast here about the JFK assassination. Tomorrow's actually 60 years since he was assassinated. Presidential historian Beschloss actually shared a few of these photos that were taken about 60 years ago today. So to be clear, what we're looking at are the archival photographs of then President Kennedy on his, what was the last day he was alive.
Right.
Your thoughts on Kennedy, why this matters now, and what you're doing with this podcast, Rob?
Well, the first thing you have to understand is that those of us who were alive and conscious during that time will never, ever forget where we were when we heard that news. I was in high school. I was in my physics class. They came into the school. The kid came in, whispered into the teacher's ear, and he turned to us. He said, "I have some very bad news," and told us what had happened. The whole class went in shock. The country was in shock. They sent us home from school, and we watched from that moment on to live television. We saw the man who was accused of killing Kennedy himself get murdered on live television. I saw that happen. It was a collective trauma for the entire nation. And if were alive then, that never goes away. And it was the first time in our nation's history where we as a people started questioning whether or not the government was telling us the truth. Up until then, we were the heroes. We won the Second World War. We were the good guys. And then we believed everything the government told us. Then the Warren Commission report came out, and there were some people saying, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. None of this makes sense. And when we started to question it, things fell apart. And so over the period of 60 years, we have gotten drips and drabs of things that have poked through. And for people who don't follow it, it's hard to put it all together. That's why we decided, I'm working with Soledad O'Brien, who's a wonderful journalist. And what we did is we took all the information that we've accumulated over 60 years and put it in one place for people to understand what actually happened on that day. And by the 10th episode, you will have a complete picture of what actually happened on that day.
And we're running over on time, but for all the people with questions out there, you feel that in the end, there is a provable empirical answer?
Yeah, well, there's a provable empirical answer about whether or not it was a conspiracy. It was definitely conspiracy. There's no question about that. Who actually shot? We name them in the podcast. We say the positions they were in. We have a good guess as to who they were based on all the research. I've been researching this on and off for 60 years. I've talked to forensic experts. I've been to Dealey Plaza. I've talked to everybody who's still alive. I've talked to Secret Service people from the CIA, and we bring them onto the podcast and we lay out exactly what happened.
It's really interesting. We're over on time. I like to end on a lighter note.
Okay.
Brian, favorite bagel shop in New York?
Well, I like a few of them. Murray's Bagels is pretty good. That's near I have a place on 12th Street, and that's pretty good.
There you have it. Rob Reiner, Murray's Bagels, and a podcast you can check out. Make up your own mind. We thank you for being here. I always love seeing you. Coming up.
Again, as you can probably tell, I don't really care much about Rob Reiner or care for Rob Reiner. I do care for Tucker Carlson, who has the best cracking of the case here, talking about the CIA's involvement in the JFK assassination in what it would be ominously one of his last broadcasts. Curious that. Where he spoke with a CIA agent who had knowledge of the Kennedy assassination, what really happened. And that CIA agent said, yeah, we totally did it. This country, everything about this country is a lie. You've been lied to your entire life. Watch.
We decided to find out. We spoke to someone who had access to these still hidden CIA documents, a person who was deeply familiar with what they contain. We asked this person directly, did the CIA have a hand in the murder of John F. Kennedy, an American president? And here's the reply we received verbatim. Quote, the answer is yes. I believe they were involved. It's a whole different country from what we thought it was. It's all fake. It's hard to imagine a more jarring response than that. Again, this is not a, quote, conspiracy theorist that we spoke to. Not even close. This is someone with direct knowledge of the information that once again is being withheld from the American public. And the answer we received was unequivocal. Yes, the CIA was involved in the assassination of the president. Now, some people will not be surprised to hear that. They suspected it all along. But no matter how you feel about or what you thought about the Kennedy assassination, pause to consider what this means. It means that within the U.S. government, there are forces wholly beyond democratic control. These forces are more powerful than the elected officials that supposedly oversee them. These forces can affect election outcomes. They can even hide their complicity in the murder of an American president. In other words, they can do pretty much anything they want. They constitute a government within a government, mocking by their very existence the idea of democracy. As cynical as we have become after 30 years of watching government officials ignore the voters who employ them, we were shocked to learn this. It's not acceptable. Americans have trusted their government less with every passing year since the killing of John F. Kennedy. Maybe this is why. And people have known this for a long time. The people who knew would include every director of the CIA since November of 1963. And that list would include Obama's CIA director, John Brennan, one of the most sinister and dishonest figures in American life. That list would also include, we are sad to say, our friend Mike Pompeo.
So it's very strange that Rob Reiner and Tucker Carlson would be all on the same side with the New York Times, of all places. But here, ladies and gentlemen, from the New York Times is a glowing piece on a Secret Service agent who witnessed the JFK assassination and says, hey, listen, guys, it's obvious to me, and he was right next to JFK's car, it wasn't Lee Harvey Oswald, one guy firing at JFK. I encourage you to go read it. The account of Paul Landis, one of the Secret Service agents just feet away from John F. Kennedy, when he was struck down, could change the understanding of what happened in Dallas in 1963. This guy remembers effectively hearing the gunshots and then finding bullets that would have made it impossible for Harvey Oswald to have been the killer here. So again, Tucker Carlson, Rob Reiner, and the New York Times all agreeing together. It's a massive conspiracy theory. And it's not a conspiracy theory. It's real. The conspiracy theorists are the ones who think that there is just one shooter. Okay? We're the sane people. And it's a high time. I mean, everybody involved in this is already dead and gone. Every person that could have been held accountable for the cover-up is already, plotted. So it's time for some truth and honesty on this. Donald Trump was this close to releasing all of the JFK files, but didn't, saying that his hands were tied. Who ties the hands of Donald Trump? Answer that question, and I'll tell you who's in charge of the country. Really. It's your boy Benny. Like, share, and subscribe. We're in charge of this channel. At least we can say that. Shoot straight. See ya.